This bites. Your commercial's stupid, you're a no-talent hack, and your donuts are stale. I'm out of here. Fast, fast, fast.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time for my final comic book review for this week, at least. It's been a lot of work getting all the way through Future State, the finale of Dark Knight's Death Metal, but this is the comic book, in all honesty, I was the most looking forward to out of all of them. And I got to be honest, I do think the Future State Swamp Thing story is better than this, but I would put this like just a notch barely above Wonder Woman from Joelle Jones, which I really liked as well. This ended up being really enjoyable, maybe not quite as good as I anticipated. This is a really fun comic book story. Now, it is exceptionally expensive. It is $10 for 80 pages. And I find it exceptionally entertaining. Not the most deep story you're ever going to read. It's pretty straightforward, although it's certainly dealing with some deep concepts and things like that. They're all kind of tied into the Dark Knight's Death Metal finale. Specifically, it says this is rolling out of the pages of Dark Knight's Death Metal, and it's kind of dealing with what the new status quo is as far as continuity and the timeline of DC Comics. Now, what is this, going to all entail at the end? I'm not really sure. We have to get there, but I can tell you right now, the first half of it, Generation Shattered, is very fun. Obviously, there is going to be a second book, also $10, also 80 pages. Generations Forged, it's going to come up at the end of the Future State event. But I highly recommend this comic, even though it is expensive. You get a lot of great artists in there. I think Dan Jurgens' art is actually doing some of the art besides just writing it. You got Ivan Reis, Yanick Paquette with some of his last work as a DC exclusive artist. Paul Pelletier. Who else is in there? John Romita Jr. It's a lot of artists. Bernard Chang. There's a lot of really good artists in here. And it is written by Dan Jurgens, Robert Venditti, and Andy Schmidt, who I believe has been an editor at DC for a long time. It's very entertaining. Now, before I get into the details on why I like this and what was so enjoyable, I do want to say, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this video. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, I want to hear your thoughts on Generation Shattered. Did it meet your expectations? Was it fun for you? It was fun for me. Now, getting right into it, we will talk about the art. There are a lot of artists on this comic book. It is 80 pages. I bet there's 15 artists. Maybe 12 to 15. There's a lot of artists. So you are seeing a lot of different styles. It's not very consistent. Obviously here on the left is Ivan Reis. Very good. I can't remember exactly the artist in the middle, but it has like more of a manga-inspired flair. Over on the right is John Romita Jr., and I will say this. Kudos to John Romita Jr. This is the best art I've seen from him at DC Comics since he was on Silencer, who does make an appearance in this comic book. It was nice seeing her there. So glad John Romita Jr. finally got to maybe put his best foot forward and actually put some good ink to page, because he has been struggling on Action Comics. If you get distracted by lots of different types of art and it kind of takes you out of the story, you probably don't want to pay $10 for this comic, because it happens a lot. The art changes quite consistently. It's not Marvel Comics 1000, where it's a new artist like essentially on each page. But it's not that far off either. There are a lot of artists in here, but I did enjoy it. I think they all put their best foot forward. Now, getting into the story, it's actually really fun. The opening, we got Kamandi Warrior. He's running down. He's talking about he's running from the Goneness. It's very reminiscent if you watch the never-ending story of the Nothing. Something is consuming everything. We find out this has to do with kind of the end of Dark Knight's Death Metal. If you read that, the finale, when the Hand tells Diana Prince that she's going to ascend and they have to have a new deal and a new way of thinking things because she saved them, we're opening an endless set of possibilities, but we're also opening up your worlds to all these dangers. And I think this is the first danger that we're going to experience. But so the opening, Kamandi Warrior, he's fighting. All of a sudden, he kind of gets pulled down into this portal, and we meet a very old, very grizzled, very worn Booster Gold. He's no longer got Skeets with him. He's turned Skeets into like a glove, like a gauntlet that's like a time-traveling gauntlet. And you definitely get the feeling that he was not looking for Kamandi Warrior when he arrived in this time to put together this team that is going to save time, that's essentially being consumed. Unfortunately, old Booster Gold doesn't make it. He hands the Skeets gauntlet over to Kamandi Warrior, who obviously has no idea what he's doing. And then we see all these like time-related characters. It's really cool. Like the Linear Men, we see Wave Rider, Reverse Flash. We see all these characters that are essentially associated with time, and they're all over the spectrum. All these different centuries are all like, what is happening? Time is vanishing. Our worlds are being consumed, and we find out that the Linear Men have been taken over by this new bad guy, and he's like altered them, and he's the one that's responsible because he wants to like create a new perfect world in like his image. So Kamandi Warrior's like, okay, it's me and you, Skeets, let's do it. And he starts going through time to collect heroes, and they start at the latest time in the timeline, the latest hero, and they move their way back all the way back to like essentially the original Batman. So it's pretty funny. He goes to the 31st century to the Legion of Superheroes, and he goes in. Skeets like, grab the powerful one. And he grabs Superboy. This isn't like John Kent Superboy. This is Clark Kent Superboy, who's been a superhero for like 2 minutes, green as grass. And he brings it back. He's like, you grabbed the wrong hero. You were supposed to grab Brainiac. Why did you grab Clark Kent? That guy doesn't know anything. So he ends up kind of starting on the wrong foot. He grabs the wrong hero in the 31st century. They start moving back in time. He ends up getting Steel. This is a really fun moment. He's fighting Hank Henshaw. He's about to take him out. Hank Henshaw gets a really cool a death here. And one of the best things about this is Dan Jurgens and Robert Venditti and Andy Schmidt, they just throw you in the deep end. They do not hold your hand. They do not coddle you through this story. Either you know your DC history or you don't. And if you don't, go Google it, because they're not going to explain it all to you. They're just presenting it to you. So there's plenty of stuff going on in these pages that are obvious homages to big events that have happened in DC Comics history that I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about. Some of them, obviously, I do know. And it's really fun. It's exciting. I want to go find out where all these things came from. And then he goes in. It almost feels like he was supposed to grab not Hank Henshaw, but gosh dang it, the dude with the enormous head from the Green Lantern. Whatever. He does not get Hector Hammond. He gets Dr. Light. And they kind of give Dr. Light a cool introduction. She doesn't speak English, but she's like doing it for her kids. And they really believe in her. I thought that was like a cool character introduction to kind of make you kind of feel for that character. I was kind of rooting for her because they gave her a good introduction. And he's still fumbling through time. And the next character, he goes out. And he shows up. I believe this was in the 80s. I believe it's in the 80s when he shows up to get Superman. He's going to get the real Superman, Clark Kent, plenty of experience. And as soon as Clark Kent sees Kamandi Warrior and his gauntlet, he's like, you're no threat. I got to go save something else. And he just flies off. And Skeets is like, oh boy, we forgot to get Superman. And next thing you know, Booster Gold shows up. And I believe this is Dan Jurgens writing Booster Gold. I'm not really sure. It's hard to tell exactly who's writing what pages, but whoever's writing Booster Gold in this story has a better handle on the character than it's almost like reading Harley Quinn in Future State. Wow, a non-super annoying version of the character is essentially what you're getting here. And I like this version of Booster Gold a lot. And he's not completely grating. He's still kind of arrogant. He is Booster Gold, but he doesn't sound like a complete doofus moron. Now, my favorite part is probably when Kamandi shows up with the new Teen Titans. They're fighting Deathstroke. They're having this big battle, and it's a lot of fun. And when he sees Beast Boy as a wolf, and Beast Boy is speaking to him, he's like, "You're my friend. You're a speaking animal." He keeps hugging him and everything. That was really funny. So there's some good humor in here. And then Skeets is like, "Get the powerful one." And then as soon as he says that, he sees Starfire like blasting Deathstroke with like an energy beam. He's like, that must be the powerful one. And he goes and grabs her. And the whole team's like, I thought he wanted the powerful one. I think he was probably supposed to grab Raven or maybe a Cyborg or Donna Troy. But he got Starfire. She's in the fight. And this other one, he goes and gets Sinestro before he turns evil. So this is Sinestro kind of early on in his Green Lantern career. He's fighting off, I can't remember the aliens with it's not the Pix, but he's fighting with Adam Strange. And he goes and grabs Sinestro. And then we get the big hero arrives on the team. It's Batman. That was pretty cool. So he kind of went back to 1939. That's the earliest he goes. He grabs like the original version of Batman, brings him onto the team, and they start talking to each other. And it turns, you can already tell like Superman's a little too green. These guys aren't going to get along. Booster Gold's getting fresh with Starfire, getting punched across the room. And so it's not exactly a real cohesive unit. They don't know each other. Although Kamandi Warrior, at one point he says, listen, I'm from the far ends of the future. I know who all the greatest superheroes in Earth's history are. I've heard of Superman. I've heard of Batman. That's it. I don't know who any of you other people are, insinuating. I did not get the best and brightest. So I did enjoy that part as well. Just it's a fun story just when he goes out and gets the whole team together. And then this image on the right, I think, is probably if there's a money shot in this comic book, and I think this is probably it. It's actually Paul Pelletier. I think he does a really good job on that one. And you can see the time is fracturing, and you can see the death of Superman is in there. You can see Bane breaking Batman's back. You can see the next Batman and Yara floor. Obviously, that would be the Justice League. We got a yellow Sinestro in there with a Sinestro core. Superman, flying from Krypton. So all of time, the fabric of time and everything has been shattered and splintering. Right in front of them, like we gotta save time. Not sure how to do it because Booster Gold's dead. He didn't exactly tell Kamandi how to do it, and so they're kind of talking about how they're going to take care of it. And then the linear men show back up, and it's like kind of weird versions of a lot of characters that you probably know. Ends up just being this really cool, like I don't know, WWF's like faction fight. They all break off into one-on-one fights, and they're like going at it. And so we get in there, and there's this whole fight is happening. And I think Starfire does something stupid because she can't control herself. And then finally, we get the big reveal. The villain shows up, and talk about deep cuts. I've heard of Dominus, but I don't think I've ever really read a story with him in it. If I have, I don't remember it really. He's like a time associated villain. That's like he's a Superman villain, but this Superman wouldn't know anything about it. He showed up way later in his career, but we haven't seen Dominus. I think, has he even appeared in the 2000s? Like it's been a long time, and he kind of makes his presence felt. And he's a villain, so he starts kind of laying out his plan and what he's going to do. But he knows that this team of heroes is going to be a problem, and he needs more time for him to like essentially consume all of history and like recreate like his own personal paradises. I think that's what he calls it. And then so he like throws our 8 heroes to 8 different time periods so they can't find each other, and they all have to like get their way out and rediscover each other, basically to buy him enough time to finish what he's done. You obviously see somebody's gone into the, we got some Nazi flags in there. Somebody's gone to the Middle Ages, World War II in there. We got dinosaurs, so that's prehistoric. Batman definitely ends up in the future. He accidentally runs in on these. I don't know if they're sentient sex dolls, but there's something like that. They're like, put us together, we'll like love you and stuff like this. But it's pretty funny. It's enjoyable. I cannot wait for the second book. This is not the very end. We do get another reveal about Dominus and who he is and like kind of what his life is. I don't want to give that one away. But I hope you guys enjoyed this book as much as I did, because in the end, comics are really supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be good fun. I do appreciate a really good quality story that's really intricate and detailed, and you have to pay attention to everything. But sometimes I just want this. Just something that's fun. Go show me the history of DC Comics. Let's put a weird team of superheroes together that weren't supposed to be there in the first place and see if they can save time. My only wish was, well, this was like a 12-issue miniseries, and it lasted for a year. But I'll take 2 80-issue series. I wish they weren't $10. I think they should be $8 personally. But DC Comics does not consult yours truly when putting these comic books together, unfortunately. But it's a lot of fun. If you enjoy a nice, fun comic book, then you like some deep cuts into DC history and seeing some characters maybe you didn't even know who they were, and maybe seeing some events that entice you to maybe go read some other DC stuff. I think you'll enjoy this comic. I'm giving it 4 stars. Highly recommend, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.